Hello, and here we go with another Jiffy and Stubbsy podcast. Jonathan Davis, dual code rugby stars in South Wales. I'm in Southwest London. Of course, we have a very special guest joining us. And you know what? Before we get going, when we kicked off at the beginning of April, well, there's been a lot to consider between now and then. Week in, week out, our thoughts are with those who have lost people. There are many difficult days ahead. And just because we talk about sports starting to return doesn't mean that those thoughts are still at the forefront of our mind all the time. Jiffy, sport is returning. Good to talk to you as always. Sport is returning, but for the life of me, I can't see how rugby can come back in the way it should come back very soon. That's not a problem. Sport should come back when it is the right time. And I must admit, I have found it difficult to really engage with sport over the last 10 weeks. I found it very, very difficult, but we are where we are. You're not going to be playing rugby for a long time.
Well, it's odd because if you look at it, I think we've got to follow kind of Germany in the football and then kind of Australia with the rugby league. But New Zealand rugby union is starting this weekend, I believe, or next weekend. So, they've overcome it. So we'll learn from them. Yeah. They want to change some of the laws in rugby, like there's no scrummaging or tackling below touch or something. That's a no-go for me. It comes back when everyone's ready and they go back to the normal rules. But it'll be interesting asking our special guest, because I watched the Bundesliga. Like you, I could not get into it because there was no sound effects. But the Australian Rugby League with Fox were very good because they put the effects on. And I'm not sure if they put the effects on in the stadium or in the studio, but it was a lot better viewing television wise, and I think that might be the way forward for the UK sports.
Let's ask our special guest. Thank you, Mark Lawrenson, for joining us today on his birthday too. Lawro, 5 times the title with Liverpool, 3 League Cups, the FA Cup, the European Cup, a host of footballing honours, 39 caps for the Republic of Ireland, and top draw broadcaster. Lawro, happy birthday. Thank you for joining the Jiffy and Stubbsy podcast. What are your thoughts on the return of sport?
Well, I think everybody needs, the whole nation needs a lift, Stubbsy, doesn't it? I think that's the most important thing. And while obviously I've seen the Bundesliga and been watching it, I think not just sound, as Jiffy's talking about, but also that the games aren't quite as intense.
No.
Now, that may suit some teams, may obviously not suit other teams as well. But I think, obviously, everything you said about what's happened with COVID-19 and one thing and another. But I do think we've all been kind of self-isolating, and everybody now wants to go out. Everybody wants to kind of have something to look forward to. And if you're a sports fan, I mean, my lad plays rugby union, obviously, and I watch rugby union. Like Jiffy, probably, and yourself, we watch all sport. And, when you turn the telly on and there's no sport, if you haven't got Netflix, you're in trouble, aren't you?
Yeah, it is very difficult. That's why, you look at the Last Dance documentary, that's been absolutely massive, because I think everyone needs that fix. No horse racing was back this week. They'll have their fix. But it's very, it kind of reminds me, Lawro, when you play, not when you're, on with the great Liverpool side, but when you play in kind of games where there's not a big crowd there, you always used to say, well, we got to create our own atmosphere. We got to create our own atmosphere when there's no crowd there. And then all of a sudden, when you watch that with no noise, it's just, you realise how important live sport is and the spectators. There's nothing like playing in front of a huge audience. There's a lot of, you can't replace it.
No, there isn't. But they're talking about some neutral grounds for games. I don't really get that, because if it's your home fixture, it's your home fixture. And, the thing about your home fixture is you go to the ground the same way, you go through the routine the same way. It's your dressing room and all those kind of things. And I just, why all of a sudden they're saying there might be half a dozen games on neutral fixtures because they're worried about spectators? I mean, we know that Liverpool will win the title. It might be 2nd, 3rd, 4th game. And if they're saying, maybe say it's against Brighton because they've got a fixture against Brighton. If they're saying that, they're going to have to move it to a neutral ground. Punters will still go. They will still go outside the stadium. You will not be able to stop them. So it's just a matter of policing and stewards. But the other thing with footballers as well is we've all played in loads of pre-season games, quite often behind closed doors, and it is completely different. Really is. Some teams it might be great for them. I mean, I saw, David Moyes is one of our big mates, and he's had West Ham training on the pitch, as in the stadium, and they've had practice games on there and everything, and they've tried to basically simulate what they think will happen when they play at home with no speckies.
It's going to be very difficult.
This is going to be very important, Lawro, because when the Premier League comes back, there are issues to be settled. Liverpool are going to win the title sort of whenever, but the relegation issue has got to be sorted out. And that is going to cause a lot of problems, especially if football starts again. And then for whatever reason, and if the virus comes back and there's a second spike, then it suddenly stops. Well, then none of it really matters. But in regard to relegation, and I say this from biased perspective, because the EFL have to decide this week what happens if the EFL season isn't going to be finished and they're going to cancel it. Well, my opinion is that the integrity is completely and utterly lost if teams are relegated without being given the chance to play themselves out of trouble. Unprecedented times. Well, this solution that the EFL are going down is just so unfair. Integrity completely out the window. And if they go with this, there will be an indelible mark on the integrity of this season forever and ever. They've got to come up with something better than relegating teams before they have played the games. They've got to be able to give them. They've got to be given a chance of getting themselves out of trouble. I admit my bias because I'm a Tranmere Rovers fan, and on the system at the moment, we would be relegated. But I'm thinking wider than that. I'm thinking all the clubs and all the fans should think, yeah, this is difficult, but think out the box. Come up with something different. You cannot go with this. You cannot go with this theory right now.
So you're talking about points per game.
Yeah.
Well, but all right. Try and come up with something else. I think the kind of mind trust that they've all been sat there for weeks and weeks and weeks trying to work it out. I mean, what is the fairest thing? I mean, as you know, Preston are just in the last playoff position in the Championship, so they want to have a crack of obviously getting into the Premier League because they're the only kind of Northwest club that's never ever been there. And as you know, they're my team. So it's just how do you do it? I mean, in a perfect world, of course, which we don't live in at the moment, but if it is if we get all the games played, then everything else goes out the window, as we know. But it's just a little bit of a big if at the moment, and it remains to be seen. Yeah,
I'm not saying it's easy, and I think the Championship will play the games out. I don't think League One and League Two will play the games out. And I'm saying think out the box. And if you have to have a new format for a couple of seasons, if there's a few unequal teams for a season or so, come up with something else rather than have this incredibly unfair system.
Okay. So you're saying basically just change the leagues around
for a couple of seasons, yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, but
the thing is though, when you start the league, Ray, playing devil's advocate, you are where you are in that season, and if something like this happens, you've got to accept that that's where the position is. And I know the best thing would be to play some kind of few games and try and get yourself out of it. But ultimately, you are where you are, and that's a sad truth. So it's a very difficult situation because we've never been in a situation before, and all sports are in the same. Obviously, the money involved with Preston and Tranmere then is a big, a big thing. But I just find it so difficult. The best thing is to finish this season off and maybe look at somewhere where you can start next. What gets me as well is we've all been pre-season training, and now they're saying, they'll need a month to get training before they can get into games.
Rubbish.
I looked at the Australian Rugby League, right? You can't when they absolutely got stuck into each other, and I'm thinking, hang on now. They've only had a few weeks. it is what it is for the players as well. They can't demand what they have to do. It's just health and safety is first, obviously, but you just play the games like it's the same for everybody.
That's the key, Jiffy. It's the same for everybody. So if you only have 2 or 3, and by the way, unlike our era, these current players, certainly Premier League and probably Championship, they don't get unfit. They were sent away. They've all got routines that they have to do, and that all the evidence reports back to the physiotherapy department, fitness department, etc. So I don't know. I mean, Sean Dyche was the best one. He cut through all the crap. And, we have clubs saying, oh, we need at least 4 weeks. We might need 5 weeks, all that. And he went 2 weeks, all in it together, get on with it. Get a life, by the way.
I think this would be shorter than, when the football, the season finishes in May. Don't they go on kind of tours to China and America to get money for the club? So I think the break they've had now is a lot longer than they've ever had in their whole careers.
Well, listen. They only have to have 4 weeks, so they've had well over 4. It's just really not an issue at all, and shouldn't be. And straight away, one or two clubs 3 games a week. And hold on a minute, if you're a top club like a Liverpool, Man City, those kind of teams, etc. You played 3 games a week since the start of August. What on earth is wrong? And you've travelled across Europe. It's like, honestly, it's just full of so many kind of do-gooders. It's frightening. Get on with it.
Yeah, I remember Jason Robertson said when he went to rugby union, he played 65 games of rugby union that particular season. Wow. So, and it's the way it is. Just get on with it.
Well, the other thing, sorry, Stubbs, now you mentioned it, I'm pretty sure that when we won the European Cup in '84, I know it's eons ago, but I think there was 5 or 6 of us who played over 60 matches.
If you're successful, you're going to play more matches, and
Absolutely.
you accept it. And that's what drives you. That's what drives you as a player.
Yeah.
Well, the calendar will return in some shape or form, but some of the decisions that are going to be taken in the next few weeks will have ramifications for sure. Lawro, is this the start of a long chapter of success for Liverpool Football Club in the same way that the Liverpool team that you played in, Liverpool Football Club, had that unparalleled run of success? I'm not suggesting it would be the same as that. I think that very difficult for that to happen. But do you see this Liverpool team dominating for how long?
Yeah, well, I mean, they've obviously got the ability to do so. The problem is, Stubbsy, it was easier in our day, if you think about it, because now there is so much money. The money that's awash in the Premier League, from ordinary teams being able to buy and spend lots and lots of money. But if you think about Liverpool, this will be first time they win it in 30 years. But, Arsenal came obviously with that fabulous side. They've moved ground. They play massive wages. Chelsea with Abramovich's money. Manchester United, Manchester City with their money. So it has been more difficult and will be more difficult going forward. In fairness to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, his team started to look a bit more like it towards the end of the season that's about to start again, if that makes any sense. So I think it's more difficult. I really seriously do. And where Liverpool have been fortunate, I think, this year is that the goalkeeper missed about 5 or 6 games, but in games that Liverpool dominated. But Van Dijk's played every single.
Yeah.
If he falls over and he's out for 2 or 3 months, you'd worry. And I know one man doesn't make a team, but he just affects absolutely everybody in that team. I just think it's going to be really difficult for them to win at least 2 trophies a season.
Have you enjoyed the way they've played, Moro? Because the left back and the right back, they have been the ability that they have, going forward is absolutely amazing to watch, isn't it?
Do you know what, Jiffy? I mean, everybody's watched them play. All opposition teams watch them play. They have them scouted, etc. We all know the way that Robertson gets forward and Trent Alexander-Arnold, etc. No one can stop them. But the really clever thing is that the front 3, the 2 wide boys, basically Salah and Mane, where they're extremely clever is that they basically just move inside. They almost play the width of the penalty area, so it gives a great amount of space to both Robertson and to Trent Alexander-Arnold. And the manager's not bothered if both of them are up there. It's like the two Brazilian fullbacks, Roberto Carlos, I can't remember who the other one was. They were just play as wingers. And, Henderson just sits in there, makes it maybe three at the back if it's needed. And it's a very obvious and easy tactic, and you've got to have the players to be able to play that way. But they're brilliant. And, all the grounds I go to and watch other teams and stuff, and supporters just come up and say, oh, your old team, what a pleasure they are to watch. And I would say they're probably everybody's favourite second team, unless, of course, you're a Blue Nose.
Yeah.
Lawro, seeing we're talking about Liverpool, I know this story. Tell Jiffy about when you signed for Liverpool and who came to pick you up.
Oh yeah, well it was a morning after I signed Jiffy, and it had a late night the night before because I went for a medical in the ground at Liverpool, and I stayed in the hotel, the Atlantic Tower, overnight, all good, and I got a phone call in the morning from reception saying, your lift's here, Mr. Lawrenson, to take you to the ground, because he had to go and do some form signing and all that kind of stuff. So best suit on and everything, walked out the door, and I just saw this gold Ford Granada. Jiffy, it looked like a pimpmobile, right? And then this guy slowly got out, and it was Bob Paisley. And I thought, well, fair enough. And as he got out, right, he had his slippers on, okay, and a cardigan, which was like, and it was like your granddad in charge of the team. But the other thing which absolutely just sold the football club to me was he had fried egg on his front of his cardigan, and I just thought, yeah, you'll do it for me. European champions.
What was it like going into that kind of Liverpool chain? I've been lucky now. I played at Anfield in a charity cup. I scored a hat trick. Well, 3 goals.
All right.
Conversions, 3 conversions, easy. But the whole change room for us, and this is Anfield sign and walking, and I've been there working. Because the newsstand is open as well, and it's just phenomenal. What was it like to go there as a new signing right into the Lions' den?
They paid. I mean, I think Kenny Dalglish cost 440 grand, and I was 900 grand plus VAT. So it was actually over $1 million. So it was a little bit daunting. And I just mentioned as well, just before, the night before I met Bob Paisley, when I was in the ground sorting other stuff out, Graham Souness was there. And he had this big black eye, and I thought, what the hell, right? And they'd only just won the European Cup against Madrid in Paris and stuff. And he just looked at me, and he kind of looked at my face, and he said, oh, I was in a bar, he says, and there was 3 Evertonians. He said, I managed to do 2 of them, but I couldn't quite do the 3rd one. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what sort of football club have I joined? And the other thing about that was that the very first game was a pre-season friendly about 5 days later against Atletico Madrid in Madrid. And as we started training, Alan Kennedy and the aforementioned Graham Souness were scrapping. And we're only in the warm-up.
That's brilliant.
How would you describe boot room philosophy, Lawro, at Anfield in those days? Because Mr. Paisley followed from Bill Shankly, and Joe Fagan, and Roy Evans was there, Ronnie Moran, just the wisdom that they all collected together. Yeah. God, if you could bottle that, well, Liverpool did bottle that. What wisdom in the boot room!
Oh, it was amazing. You weren't allowed in. You had to knock on the door, to get permission to go in. And it was a boot room. All the boots were hanging off the pegs, and the skips were there. They'd sit on skips, and on a Thursday, because generally we played on the Saturday. There wasn't too many kind of Friday night, Sundays, and all those kind of things. But if you had to go in, if you were a bit late back from training and you had to go in on a Thursday because you were playing away on the Saturday, so you needed to know if you were travelling on the Friday with the team. And it happened to me, and I'd done something for some charity thing at Melwood, so I'd driven back. Everyone had gone. But the boot room boys were all there Thursday afternoon, and we used to say they were pushing and running, which was like they were planning for the game at the weekend. So I knocked on the door, and I got a, what? So I put my head around the door, and they went, what do you want? 900 grand? No. And I said, do I need to bring my stuff in tomorrow to travel for the game? And Ronnie Moran just looked at me and he said, why? Do you think you're playing well enough? And I went, well, I've sort of been in the team, Ronnie. He went, yeah, but do you think you're in the team on Saturday? I'm just wanting him to say, bring your bloody bag in and get on with it. And I went, yeah, okay. So Ronnie Moran turned around to the others and he went, what do we think? Shall we have a vote? And he went, go on then, bring your bag in tomorrow. Honestly, it was like drawing his hen's teeth. It was just mad. And they'd have a drink, they'd have a little bit of whiskey and everything. And that they were just pushing and running, but they were great. I mean, the other one very quickly was we beat, I think, Luton at home 5-0 in the league. Rushy scored 5, Jiffy, honestly, frightening. Scored 5, so we win 5-0. Monday morning after the game on the Saturday, 5-a-side, Rushy miscontrols the ball. Ronnie Moran stopped the game and he just went, same player. And basically he was just saying, you might have been good on Saturday, but this morning you're crap. And that's the way they were.
That's what drives standards, isn't it? That's what drives standards.
Yeah.
I'd have to ask, what was it? Did they? Because if you look at the side that they built up there, right? Did they coach or man manage? Man manage, I think, is the key, isn't it?
Oh, man management was amazing. The training was good. But they treated as adults. You could have a drink and all that kind of stuff. If you went away from home on the coach on the way back, it was like the Paralytic Express. And then on Monday you got down to training and all those kind of things. No, they managed absolutely brilliantly. Ronnie Moran, basically, he was at his happiest when he was unhappy. Is the best description for Ronnie.
Yeah.
And he was just on your case every single day. But they knew how to enjoy themselves when we won stuff and everything. But no, it was a fabulous. You know what? It was an experience and education, not in football, but life.
Yeah.
Is it true, Lawro? Today, when teams win titles and cups, the presentation ceremonies, the choreography and the work that goes into the presentation ceremonies with the pyrotechnics and everything, and the ceremony of people having the medal put around their neck, it's a magnificent televisual event. Is it true, you told me over a drink one night, that at Liverpool sometimes, well, you tell the story about the cardboard box.
Oh, yeah. Well, so we win the league. First year, we won it, in my first year. And it was like, it wasn't muted celebrations, but it was all, well done, boys, all that kind of things. No medals. No ceremony on the pitch. We walked round and waved to everybody, man. They'd all cleared off. And so it went a little bit flat then. You kind of thinking, oh, right, when do you get a medal? I just wanted this medal for winning the league. Come back pre-season, first day of pre-season, and we're all in the changing room and, looking at each other's tans and all that kind of stuff and daft haircuts. Ronnie Moran came in with his box, right? And he said, right, sit down. So we're all kind of sat in there, Dalglises, Sunesses of the world and everybody. And he just used to go around the dressing room, the first team dressing room. So he'd go, I think Brucey would have been the first in there. And he said to Brucey, how many games did you play last year? And he went, oh, I played every one. Ronnie said, right, you can have this medal. And he'd go around the dressing room and we used to play 42 league games. So you have to play 14 at least to get a medal. Come to David Hodgson, he said, how many did you play? He said 13. He went, unlucky, do better next year. And went to the next man. It was honestly, that's the way they were.
Who are the characters in the change room? Who are the big? You always got a few characters. Who are the?
Well, there was we had a few from Stupid Town. To be fair, Stevie Nicol was just the greatest lad ever, but he was as thick as anything. Brucey wouldn't have been too clever either, so he got most of the stick. Hanson was like the judge, and Hanson gave most people stick. We used to call him after Guinness Book of Records, Norris McWhirter.
Oh, yeah,
he knew everything. And even now, if you want to go out for a beer with him, he remembers everything to the nth degree. So you couldn't get away with it. And he was kind of the big one. But there was, Alan Kennedy wouldn't have been the brightest. We used to call him Billy Bungalow, nothing upstairs. And that's, what it's like in the dressing room. It's full of people like that.
Mark, did it surprise you that Lawrenson and Hansen were so successful on the pitch, but then they became incredibly successful in a television studio? Knowing Alan well, did it surprise you that he sort of went into broadcasting? Because my memories of working as a local radio reporter with Liverpool in those days was you could never get him to speak to you. Getting an interview of Hansen was like well, it was impossible. And then all of a sudden, he is one of the most accomplished broadcasters ever. Did it surprise you he turned to broadcasting?
Yeah, but I mean, he just didn't do your interviews because he didn't like you, Stubbsy. But sorry to give you that bad news nowadays. You know what? Excuse my friend. He couldn't be arsed. He really could not be arsed. He'd just be thinking, now I want to get home. What am I doing all that for? But no, because he was, was an intelligent lad. We found out, after about 4 or 5 years playing together, we both did Latin at school, and which sounds a bit kind of really.
That just means you're old, Lawro. I did it as well, so don't worry. That just means
there you
you're
go.
old.
Mea culpa and all that, Jiffy. So that was every week. But Al doesn't really like football. He's hardly been to any games since. He's only lives round the corner. He's just not interested. But this is the ability that he had. He was brilliant at football. It was too easy for him. He played football for Scotland, squash for Scotland, and golf for Scotland. Apart from that, he had no talent whatsoever.
That is sickening, that is. I hear people like naturals.
And tall, good-looking, and speaks well. But apart from that, he hasn't been dealt too many aces.
I did enjoy though. Like when I went into the broadcasting, I did watch a lot of the other broadcasters, and you pick a lot up from them. And it was just how you and him kind of explain. That's what I kind of learned is explaining. Because I look at the commentator says what's happening, and the co-commentator says why it's happening.
Yeah,
and that's what it's just a little bit of a partnership. So I watched a lot of the television, how they analyze games. It was so good. I still enjoy Match of the Day. I don't watch much like football, but the Match of the Day is there. It's a simple formula. You have a highlights, analysis, highlights, analysis. That's what people want. It's as simple as that's why it's been so successful.
Well, and Sky have been brilliant, haven't they?
Yes.
The stuff they've got. I mean, they've obviously got the money and stuff. But when they employed Gary Neville, they actually put him that massive big screen up in his lounge at home so he could practice. Now, the BBC, you get absolutely no chance.
No chance.
You probably get an abacus. You probably got one, Jiffy. But that's where they've been great. But I do say, in terms of co-commentating, until you've worked with John Motson, you've not worked with anybody, both good and bad. Is that right, Stubbsy?
Well, it's a test for you. I know that. It's been a massive test for you down the years. But you know what jumps out, Lawro? The enthusiasm of those top broadcasters. Their enthusiasm just jumps out, and it brings the game alive for you.
Yeah, I mean, Jiffy, they're all saddos, aren't they? Because they spend Thursday, Friday night with the stats and all that, and they can bore for Brighton, but they are very, very good. And the biggest thing with them is if they make one mistake, it absolutely tears them apart. And if you think, all the people I've worked with radio and TV, but Motson has never, ever made a mistake. And the bigger the game, the better his commentary. And I know people chat out about stats, and he is a bit barking mad, Stubbsy, as we know. We've looked after him for years. But, cometh the hour, cometh the man with Motty.
And I I would say, they are odd characters, eccentric characters. I like one of the best I've worked with now is Andrew Cotter. And if you watch him on Twitter or Instagram now, he's doing commentary on dogs, right, which has got millions of hits, right? But he just turns his hand. 1 minute he's doing European Cup, the next thing he's doing internationals, then he's doing the Golf Open, then he's doing the Australian Tennis Open. The ability that they have just to soak all the information in, and then you're right. I still remember people like David Coleman and Barry Davis and the commentary.
Bill McLaren, Jeff.
I know we're all Cliff Morgan and Bill McLaren, Ray French and all these. They are just, they in sport now, they make the sport. Sometimes they make the sport.
They are a unique breed in terms of personality, wouldn't you both agree?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mad.
Well, I mean, Stubbsy, you know all the Motson stories, and there are many, but the best one I can tell you was Germany, whatever year it was for the World Cup. And I think we were not in Hamburg, obviously somewhere in Germany. And it was a really hot, sunny day, and we're in the main stand about 10 minutes away from commentating. And I just to leave Motty to do whatever he did. He was looking at all these facts and figures. I'd said hello to him about an hour ago and just wander up to the point. And Karen Graham, who you'll know, Stubbsy extremely well, lovely girl as well. And they asked her to kind of produce him and look after him, which he needed looking after. And I've got to the commentator position, and Motty's got his head down in his papers and his books. And Karen's there, and she looked at me. She said, "Oh, thank God you're here." I said, "Why? What's the problem?" And she said, "Oh, it's been really, really difficult." And I said, "More difficult than normal?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Why?" And then she said, "Well, look at that stand over there." And the stand opposite the main stand was low, and it was sunny, and the sun was blasting in his face. And apparently Karen just said, "Well, he didn't even look at me. He just put his hand up, and he said to me, 'Do something about that,'" which was the sun, Jiffy.
They love routine, don't they? They love routine. They get up there, and they'd have to, like with, Ray and Bill, he'd have to take them to their commentary point. They'd sit there at a specific time and just routine. And how many years they did it, they still had to be kind of looked after and sat in the same spot at a particular time.
Yeah, and even after the game, Stubbsy, Motty, few little tots of whiskey and then a toasted cheese sandwich and off to bed. Bonkers.
Yeah, routine, Lawro. Got to stick to the routine. Lawro, you went into management and you were on the coaching team at Newcastle. What are your memories and your thoughts of being in management? Because then you went and decided to have an accomplished career in broadcasting. Well, when you look back to your management years, what jumps out?
Oh, well, as you know, I finished at Liverpool at 29, almost 30, because I snapped my Achilles and it was never the same. The day after I finished, I was appointed manager of Oxford United for Robert Maxwell. In fact, for Kevin Maxwell. Kevin was Robert's son, although Robert Maxwell owned Derby and they also owned Oxford. Yeah, discuss. Yeah. And I really enjoyed it, but I knew at some stage I would fall out with Robert Maxwell, even though he wasn't my chairman. And Derby were wanting to take Dean Saunders, who played for us and obviously was going to be a big star, and he was already a very, very good player. And they'd ring Arthur Cox, the old Derby manager, would ring me nearly every day. And I said, "Listen, Arthur, he's not for sale." And he said to me, "Well, tell Mr. Maxwell that." And I said, "Well, Kevin knows he's not for sale. Kevin Maxwell, his son, who's our chairman, he knows he's not for sale. So just like, don't bother ringing me." Anyway, it came to a head. And one Saturday we were playing Blackburn Rovers at home. I got a phone call an hour before the game from Kevin Maxwell saying, "Mark," he said, "Dean Saunders can't play today because he's signing for signing for Derby after the match." And I went, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, I'll speak to you later all about it." He said, "But he's going to go and play for my father." Right. Anyway, I played him. I thought, bollocks, excuse my phrase. and he scored and we drew one each. And at the end of the match, I pulled him in and I said, "Look," I said, "you're free to go and speak to Derby." Listen, he'd probably already spoken to them, as that's the way that football is. And he said to me, "What sort of money should I ask for?" And I said, "Well, if you think about it," he said, "so Kevin is selling you to his dad, right?" I said, "So whatever you have a figure in your head," he didn't have an agent, I said, "times it by 3, because this deal will not fall through," which he sort of did. But I fell out with Maxwell and had a kind of stand-up row with him in the penthouse of the Mirror buildings, People, Sunday Mirror and all that kind of stuff. And basically, I stood up and gave him the whole diatribe, and he just looked at me and he said, "You know what?" He said, "I like the way that you speak." He said, "I like the job you've done." He says, "But can I tell you this?" And so this is the owner of Derby talking to the manager of Oxford. He said, "It's got F all to do with you," and just walked out, and that was me gone. But on the good side, Jiffy, my best 2 signings was the sprinkler system on the first team pitch and the Zanussi fridge in the office. It never failed.
That's what gets me with a lot of the football clubs now. The power of kind of the owners or the chairman and also the egos. They do a lot of brilliant things in business, but then once they come into sport, I just don't know what happens to them. Their egos take over, and they just heads go to mush sometimes. They're different people because of sport, I think.
Yeah, and obviously get in there because they've got the money. I know, and Stubbs, you'll know this, there is an owner in the Championship that actually sends a drone up over the training ground to watch how the manager's managing, how the coaches are coaching, and how the players are training. I mean, why would you be bothered?
I know.
Lawro, when you worked at Newcastle United, it always strikes me. I worked with Kevin Keegan for a while in broadcasting terms. The man's charisma, it just can light up a room, and it lit up Newcastle. And I just keep thinking of whoever, when the new owner, new manager, whoever brings success to Newcastle, there'll be statues of them all around Tyneside.
Well, I think it'll happen with is it the Saudis who are taking over? Has that been ratified or not yet?
No, it's not. There are still obstacles, but sooner or later you would imagine it happens.
It's too much money, Stubbsy, and that's the key. I mean, they're going to have so much money that I think they're absolutely, totally going to really go for it. I mean, it's mad. It's a mad place. I tell you where it's fortunate, Newcastle is. It's probably the biggest city in the country with only one football team, and you've been there. You've been there on the Saturday, and you can see all these 55-year-old blokes walking through town with massive stomachs, with the black and white shirt on, and it's like a religion. But you kind of get caught up in it a little bit. But Kevin was great. Problem with Kevin was that I don't think they offered him any shares when they went to PLC. And if he gets a hump, Kevin, as you know, Stubbsy, he gets a hump. And he just cleared off. I mean, I was there as defensive coach, and I've been there 6 months and not taken one session, because he'd said, and he was right in a way, that he was more interested about us going forward, and we hadn't quite got it right and all that kind of stuff. And I took my first session the day after Kevin resigned.
But wouldn't he listen to you though, Lawro? You were there as a defensive kind of coordinator. Maybe you didn't take the session, but as a good manager, he would listen to some, things that you would say, implement that or not.
Yeah, no, he did. But when I first got there, he said, "Look, have a month or two, have a look at it and see what you think." And I was in the office one day. He said, "What do you think about us defensively?" I said, "You've got the same players playing for you defensively as you had when you were in the what was the Division 1, the Championship." I said, "You've upgraded the rest of the team, but the lads you've got they ain't good enough." And they weren't. I mean, one of the goalkeepers, I used to call him Chocolate Hands because everything just dropped off him. And and he said, "Yeah, I know they need replacing, but it was great to work for. Good fun." And of course, Terry Mack was there as well, wasn't it? So it was good fun.
Yeah, I have to say, the charisma and personality of Kevin, it really got the best out of people for sure. Yeah. Lawro, what about talking about managers? I'm keen to hear about your time playing for the Republic of Ireland, because that was Jack Charlton probably took over after you started playing. Who would have given you your debut? Was it Johnny Giles?
Johnny Giles, player manager. Yeah. What a fabulous player, the best two-footed player I'd ever played for. And when I say two-footed, not just tackling, by the way.
Yeah.
But he was mad. He was absolutely mad. And I remember we'd played a game in Bulgaria, a qualification game, and Stevie Highway was playing, and Jazzy scored this 30-yard, and Stevie Highway got given for offside, and there was mayhem. And I think it was Bulgaria, and the only people at the ground, apart from my supporters, were the police, the army, because they were that's the way that it was. And it all kicked off on the bench, and guns came out and all this kind of stuff and everything. And in the end, the game just descended into a brawl, basically. Anyway, the return leg, okay, so Lansdowne Road, that is now, but you might have played there, Jiffy, when you came out in the corner.
Yeah,
remember?
That's right.
Yeah, came out in the corner and all that. And I think it was only my third or fourth game for the Republic. Giles is obviously still player manager and everything. And we had this team talk. And all it was, he put Bulgarian team sheet up on the board. And he said, "Right, where's number 7? Is number 7? Yes, number 7's there." And he went, "He's mine." And that was a team talk. I was expecting some eulogy. And that was a team. Right. So, and he wasn't the quickest Giles on the pitch.
No, I noticed that, yeah.
He was cute. He was very, very cute. So we're playing this game, and one thing or another, and all of a sudden, this number 7 for Bulgaria is playing on the left, right on the touchline. The ball gets played into him, and as he turns his body to go forward, Giles, he came from nowhere, absolutely cut him in half. Really, I mean, how he broke his leg, I'll never know. The Bulgarian team manager was sat on this bench about 2 yards away. He just put his hand out, grabbed the lad by the collar, the number 7, sat him down next to him, and he just said to Giles in like broken English, "Mr. Giles, now we play." And he went, "Yeah, no problem." Like, really? I was like 19. I was a kid from Preston. It's like, oh my God, what's this?
Lawro, flick the back of your rugby shirt. There's a massive big fly walking around your rugby shirt.
It's all right.
He's all right.
I couldn't stop staring at the thing.
Yeah. Cleaner's not been in for a while, Stubbsy.
I always think it, when going back to the broadcasting, what always gets me is when you say, a lot of people go and say, "Oh, you've been out of the game too long. What do you know? What do you remember?" Because I think we all get it if you're in broadcasting. And I do think sometimes, although you're not involved in it, in rugby, the game hasn't changed that much at all. Neither the same as football. Yeah. What's changed is the prep that goes into it, the training that they do, the analysis that they do, and that's it. So basically, the game is the same as it's ever been. Maybe a little bit quicker, and the defenses are more structured. A little bit, they are more structured. Yeah. But nothing really changes, does it, Lawro?
No, it really seriously doesn't. But I think the biggest single thing now is, and you touched upon it then, lads now know what they do on the pitch. Because they're showing clips of it all the time. Where in our day, you go out and you'd play, and if you played well, you played well. But no one would bring you in the office and say, "Right, you did this well because this is what you did." But on the other hand, you need to kind of improve on this. It was absolutely no idea. I mean, Graham Souness signed for Liverpool from Middlesbrough, and the day before he made his debut, he said to Joe Fagan, "Exactly what it is you want me. What do you exactly want me to do?" And Joe Fagan went, "Effing hell," he said, "we just spent 375,000 on you. If you don't know, how the hell do we know what you're supposed to do?" And that, I know it's going back to the old Liverpool thing, but that's the way that it was. But now, I mean, they've got homework and everything. They take stuff home that they have to look at and all that kind of stuff, which has made good players into very good players into outstanding players into world-class players, because now they're armed with all this knowledge.
Yeah. Or who are the defenders that make you sit up and take note? You've mentioned Virgil van Dijk, but who are the defenders of today that you think I have a lot of respect for them?
Well, he's the best, Stubbs. He's the best in the world. I don't think anyone can touch him. And, he's played with 3 or 4 different partners this year in the Liverpool team, and he makes them all better. It doesn't detract from his game. He's a really good talker, etc. And he's just the tops. But, I mean, there's, in the Premier League, there's been some fabulous ones. I mean, Tony Adams, John Terry, when those lads were in the prime, they could play with anybody.
Who are today's defenders other than Virgil van Dijk?
Good question, Stubbs. I'll come back to you in about an hour.
I think, is Van Dijk, is he deceptively quick, or is he quicker in thought? Because he's a big lad.
I'll tell you what, just talking about it, I've just reminded me now, right? Manchester City aren't going to win the league this year because Liverpool have been outstanding. But Manchester City, one of the main reasons is because they never replaced Vincent Kompany.
Yeah.
And they knew he was going. I mean, the last third of the season, last season, they won the league because he came back into the team when he regained his fitness, and he was absolutely brilliant. You can't get them, Stubbsy. It's a boy at, is he at Napoli or Roma, Cuba Lily or something? Is that his name? Yeah. He looks the business, but there aren't many.
There's a couple of young kids in Swansea that they're talking up, and they might have gone to European Championships this year, but I think they might go next year if they're lucky. It's Ben Cabango and Roden, is it? They're on about talking Man United with the Premiership. So I've watched them a little bit. They're big, strong lads, and they've got plenty of time on the ball. So but it is difficult. That Vincent Kompany, who replaces him, innit? You can go all over the world. What surprised me, Ramos, Real Madrid. How do you rate him? Because he looks like a thug, but he's been there and done it and won everything. So he can't be a bad player, can he?
Oh no. I mean, he's a cheating bastard, Jiffy. But and he gets people sent off for fun. That's a clever. But he can defend. He can defend. But he plays in a team as well that generally dominates every single game. which is which is good. I mean, the boys at the back at Barcelona. What's his name? Married to the singer. Come on, Stubbs, you'll know. PK.
PK.
He's a player because it's not easy to defend in that particular team. And Manchester United let him go.
You talk about, we were talking then about Vincent Kompany. It made me think of Manchester City. Lawro, Aguero is just, his statistics are just absolutely ridiculous. And I feel sometimes that people don't talk about him as, I'm not saying more than they should, but his stats are absolutely remarkable. He's just a goal machine. He just
doesn't get the praise that he should have. And by the way, he does speak English. He just doesn't want to speak English in front of the cameras, does he? As we all know. But if you look at him, he's like, remember Gerd Muller? You'll remember.
Yeah, exactly the same.
That sort of squat and everything, low centre of gravity, doesn't get pushed off the ball, etc. And no, he's a top player. And I'm with you. When Guardiola went there originally, everyone said, well, he's going to leave because they don't get on. But no, he's head and shoulders the best striker that they've got.
Who's the best player you played with, Lawro?
This. I'll give you two answers to this because it's a double question answer. Because the best player I ever played with, I played against him, which was Kenny. So Kenny was a genius, Jiff. Honestly, he couldn't run. He had a big fat arse and he couldn't head it, and he was a genius. He had radar. You ask Russia, he would just made so many goals for Russia. He didn't wear shin pads, never got injured. 9 out of 10 every week, occasionally 11 out of 10. He was just brilliant.
Is he the best Scottish player ever? He's got to be, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so. I think so. Yeah. I think so. And I always talk about, everyone's on about Messi and Ronaldo now, and they are unbelievable players. But for me, I still think Maradona.
Oh yeah. Well, did you? I've just been watching Maradona in Mexico when he's managing.
I haven't seen that yet.
Jiff, you've got just as a sports fan, you've got to see it because he's completely knackered. Right? He's about 5'5" and he's 18 stone, and he just comes in the dressing room, and sometimes it's words of wisdom and sometimes it's just expletives. But you know the funniest thing about it? He's in this place in Mexico, and it's where the biggest drug cartel operate out of, right? And I think his name was Griezmann. El Chapo is his nickname. He got caught eventually. But on the back of the tracksuits on my kid's life, do you know who sponsors them? Charlie. How good is that? Couldn't write it, could you?
Have you seen the film about him when he's in Napoli?
Yeah.
Oh, he is. They kick the shit out of him, right? He is hard as nails, and he is just unbelievable. Unbelievable. I think he's the best I've ever seen.
Well, there you go. I mean, the hand of God and all that, fine, right? But you know, the second goal where he goes past Reedy as though Reedy's having a cup of tea. Lineker said to me, because Lineker played in that game, he said that the surface had been relayed and everything. He said, but it was loose. He said, when you ran on it, you felt as though you were slipping, right? And he said, so you watch the second goal that Maradona scores and just have that in your brain that every time you take a step onto the pitch, it moves. So it becomes even better.
Oh, he's brilliant. I loved watching him. Loved watching him.
Absolutely crazy. Lawro, what were your other sports? I know you play a bit of cricket. No, you played a bit of snooker.
Oh, no, I didn't really play snooker. I just had a snooker table, didn't I? I didn't really play. It was drunken snooker. But cricket,
that's the hardest sport as well. Snooker is the hardest sport in the world, I think. Oh.
Yeah. But cricket was, I was invited onto the ground staff at Old Trafford when I was 16, which basically meant I could have been an apprentice. But we had that conversation with the coach, which was, he said to me, you play a bit of football? And I said, yeah. He says, you'll have to give it up. And I went, bye.
Yeah, okay.
You're a batsman, bowler, what were you?
I was a bit Michael Atherton. I was just a little bit of a nibbly nobbler, and I bowled a bit of medium pace, Stubbsy.
You do love your cricket, though, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Well, I live just down the road from the cricket club here, and obviously when we've got cricket, I wander down with the dog loads of times, and my son, he's in the bar and I'm watching the cricket.
I love it. Look at cricket, though. Look at cricket now. Everyone's moaning about football not finishing. Cricket hasn't started. So they're in the same position, aren't they?
Well, but surely apart from maybe the slips, how can you not have cricket?
I know.
Where are you going, Jiffy?
Oh, hey, it's a delivery, isn't it?
Oh, is that an Amazon delivery?
Yeah, my daughter's gone down the beach. My wife's working, so I got to answer the door.
Listen, this delivery? Can you split it into 3?
It's three envelopes. Well, probably I'm not earning anything at the moment, so it must be a bill.
Oh yeah.
Like everything else. So,
You didn't tell me, Stubbsy, when you invited me onto this program that it was a walkabout program.
Hey, anything on this, mate? Let me tell you, we did have an Amazon delivery when Martin Fire was on, and he went to the door to answer it.
Fab. What thing was he came back?
Crazy.
What is next, Lawro, over the next few weeks for you? What's coming up?
Football, Stubbsy. Hopefully. So just waiting to get my rota and everything for when the games start. And I've been tested as well. So I've been tested. I had one of these latest tests with the blood test and everything. It tells you that you haven't got it, and that you haven't had it, and at the time you take it, you haven't got it. So that's all.
So where will you go? Who are you working with now, Lawro? Is it with the Radio 5?
Still the B, Radio 5, and then I do a lot of work for the football club, for LFC TV and stuff. So not normally do the games. And
when you go there, you're going to go to the games, right? And you're going to commentate. So obviously social distance. As a commentator, you're allowed to go, because I wasn't sure when I watched a little bit of the clips on Australia if they did it off tube or not. But
LFC TV, I would think, Jiffy, they've got an office in the middle of Liverpool, and we do the away games from there.
Okay.
So I would think we're just probably going to do that, because then obviously you don't have the rigmarole of getting into the ground and all that, and it's less of a headache for everybody.
Lawro, the subscription base for LFC TV now must be absolutely phenomenal.
Worldwide, Stubbsy, yeah. I think it's mad, because if you live certainly in the Far East, the only real news you can get is through LFC TV. And I know when they drop the subscription occasionally in the UK, that obviously the figures shoot up. But listen, like anything, the more successful it gets, the more the subscriptions, and hopefully the more they pay the pundits.
And especially the way they play as well at the moment. Yeah. You're right. It's the pace that they play at is incredible.
You spoke about obviously top Premier League teams going away at the end of the season or pre-season, and just to play games, Jiffy, and get some money. Well, at the end of last season, Liverpool played one game in Australia, and God knows however much money they got. They actually spent more time in the air travelling than they did on the ground.
Yeah, exactly. That's all commercial commitment, isn't it? That's all it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's ridiculous.
Time is just about going to beat us, guys. Lawro, what are you watching on television?
Well, Netflix, I've just watched, which is harrowing, but fab in a strange way, is the Jeffrey Epstein situation.
Yeah. Is it good?
I just watched 2 episodes. It's weird, isn't it? It's interesting watching, but weird.
Well, the other thing about it, I know his girlfriend.
You're right,
Maxwell. I've had lunch with her with obviously the father and Kevin and stuff, and it's just there's a really good question for you, or a statement. If you could find out where Ghislaine Maxwell is, you'd make an absolute fortune, because the whole of the world is looking for her, because she's just done one, hasn't she?
How is she not behind bars as well then?
Can't find her, Jiff.
That's just incredible. It is just, but it's just, when you look what's going on in America, if you watch like Making of a Murderer or O.J. Simpson, and then you're watching this, it's just, I know that the riot, it's mad, isn't it? The law over there is just crazy. Absolutely crazy. So I'm looking forward to watching a couple of the last.
Honestly, the more that Epstein developed, it is harrowing. And if you've got daughters, you're thinking, oh my goodness me! Yeah. But he nearly got away with it.
You'd kill him, wouldn't you? I got 4 daughters.
In a heartbeat.
Kill him. No messing.
Lawro, something I've meant to mention and I forgot. Well done a few days ago. You mentioned about is it a few days ago? You mentioned about the anniversary of Heysel, and it doesn't really get mentioned a lot over here. And it should do. You put on social media that we should never forget what happened on the night of Heysel. Obviously, tell Jiffy, you ended up in hospital with the policeman?
Yeah, I ended up in hospital, Jiffy. I lasted about 90 seconds in the game. I dislocated my shoulder probably a week before, and they just risked me playing. So I knew if it came out, I was knackered. It's a long story, but I could tell it. I ended up in a hospital, had my shoulder put back in, still had my kit on and everything, and I woke up in this hospital ward, and I counted there was 24 beds, including the one I was in, and just sat at the end of my bed was a soldier with this massive machine gun. Didn't speak any English. He just kind of looked at me, and I looked at him. Obviously saw the look of horror on my face, and he just went, wait. And obviously got some English-speaking nurse to come in, but it was horrendous. And it was a hospital where, unfortunately, the dead and the dying were. And in the morning, they basically had to Roy Evans smuggled me out in a service lift out the building just so that no one saw me. All I had was my kit and everything. It was honestly frightening.
So was that ward empty apart from you?
Yeah, completely empty.
But you're quite right. It doesn't get mentioned enough in terms of marking that tragedy, does it not?
Yeah. No, and I think like I know some of the stuff. Obviously, 38 people murdered, 39 people murdered, etc., and all that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of side stories, Stubbsy, with this, which I think will probably come out, isn't it? Don't they wait 50 years or something? It wasn't as straightforward as everybody thought. And I know that the football club, Liverpool, actually wrote to UEFA or telex them the day before about the arrangements behind the particular goal, where obviously the wall collapsed and the charge took place and everything like that. That will come out at some time. Yeah,
I feel as though there are a lot of untold stories about that night.
Yeah, there are. No, definitely are. Peter Robinson, I think he will be the man to talk to.
Yeah, I agree. There's a great untold story there. Lawro, thank you for joining us today. We do appreciate it. By the way, happy birthday. But it looks like we've gone in opposite directions, it looks like, in regard to haircut.
Yeah, I did mine, got mine done 3 days before lockdown. Look, it was disappearing. I was wearing a cap and I just thought to myself, have the flipping lot shaved. I love it. It's great.
It's a brave one. It's a brave call of mine. My stepdad had one of the old Bobby Charlton, Ralph Coates hairstyle.
Brilliant.
Oh, he used to run the touchline for my local rugby club, and his hair would be like that. And it was said, you got to cut it off. You got to cut it off. And he said, you touch that and I'll shave your head in the middle of the night. I thought, oh, better, okay, calm down. And then eventually one day he said, it's coming off, cut it off. So it's just a lot easier, I suppose.
I didn't tell anyone. I just did it, and just what was really funny for the first 2 or 3 weeks. Where I live, Stubbsy, in the village, and people were looking at me thinking, "Is it or isn't it?" It was great fun.
Lawro, thank you for joining us on your birthday. Have a very happy birthday, Jiffy.
Thanks, Lawro. Thanks.
Cheers, boss. Good to speak to you.
Yes,
Lawro, see you soon, Lawro. See you soon.
See you guys.
Take care. Thanks, Lawro.
Thanks. Bye.
Take care, boys. Take care. And thanks for listening to Jiffy and Stubbsy. Hope you'll join us again. Please hit the subscribe button.